you can do algebra here, but you can also just throw this in Desmos. I'm going to show you because, I don't know, some of you, we need to factor. Some of you are bad at factoring. You don't realize it. You lose negatives, things like that. So just type it in. The only thing is, if we type it in with Z's, the Desmos calculator doesn't really know what to do with that because it's a graphing calculator, right? It's the XY plane. So we need to get things in terms of X's and Y's. So I would just do that. Let's turn it into X's. So X squared plus 10X minus 24. And we get the parabola here, but we can also just do equals 0. And we would get vertical lines. And those vertical lines are telling us where the solutions are. So we see 1 is at 2. So that's a perfectly valid answer. If we scroll over, we're going to see the other one is at negative 12. So that is also valid. It does not say any other instruction. What is one of the solutions? Right? If it said, what is the positive solution, then only 2 would be valid. If it said, what is the negative solution, then only negative 12 would count. So you got to be careful with those things, but sometimes it doesn't say. And that's why we have these free response questions. There might be multiple answers that are going to get it right. So both of those are fine. I like this method because unless I type it wrong, there's really no chance of me messing up. And it's good to know that the calculator does this. Because first of all, the Z is there just to kind of make it so it's a little harder to do this. But if you just know to convert it back into X's and Y's, you can literally, it's limitless. It doesn't matter what letters you've got. The calculator can solve that algebra for you. And it's good to know that it does this with those vertical lines. But if we were going to factor, remember that we need numbers that add to 10 and multiply to negative 24. So hopefully you know your times tables. I would go with, let's do it over here. We would have, well, I guess I'll put it back to Z, and Z. So one needs to be positive, one needs to be negative. So plus and minus. What goes into 24? Well, we got 8 and 3, right? But 8 and negative 3, that's 5, or negative 8 and positive 3 is going to be negative. So that doesn't work. How about 6 and 4? That sounds like it's going to work, right? 6 and 4 is 10. But remember, one has to be positive, one has to be negative. And I think if you got this wrong, that's almost certainly what you did. Is you thought 6 and 4 is 10 and you just forgot how the negatives would work. It's not a coincidence that the SAT chose this particular equation because there's more opportunity to mess it up. But really what it's going to be is 12 and negative 2, right? 12 and negative 2. 12 times negative 2 is negative 24 and 12 minus 2 is 10. So that's how we get our Z equals negative 12 and Z equals positive 2. Because remember, this is equal to 0. And the whole point of these factors is that when we have these little parentheses pieces, each one individually is kind of like a little mini equation that is equal to 0. And so we would subtract the 12, add the 2, and that's how we get our values. So again, either one is fine to answer. But if you got it wrong because you did the algebra wrong, did the factoring wrong, admit to yourself that you are not that good at this. And you can get better, but are you going to get better in time for the SAT? Or should you just try to use the calculator as much as possible? You're in the easy module for a reason. So I'm sorry if this is harsh, but sometimes people need a wake-up call and they're not as good at math as they think they are. And those careless mistakes can be prevented by using strategies and the calculator. So do that. Just get as many points as possible.